Calito, Calito, Calito. Halito. What's happening, beloveds? I hope everything is healthy out there in Indian country. We got a good old build today. Cuzzo's gonna be joining shortly. Pardon me one moment. My phone is ringing right now. Excuse me one second. What's up, beloveds? My bad, beauties. My bad. So yeah, we got a really nice build. A really nice one. I'm super excited. So what's good with y'all? What y'all got going on out there? Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace to everybody in the chat. Halido L. Austin, TK Brantley. Tahira, what's up, beautiful? What's up, Wooly here? Dunwan. So we're gonna start a series and we're gonna do urban Indian country news. So, but it's not gonna be the kind of not so much the new news, but it's gonna be the old news. We found so many different spicy meatballs. I told you like all of the stories, um, all of the stories regarding. Hold on one second. All of the stories regarding American Indians are so fascinating. There's so many different caveats. So, people said that Moy Toy was this made up person, and all of that was, made up or whatever. This was a particular genealogy build that I did when I was on Sonetta, but this is also the same build that has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about tonight. So now the thing is with that, where I was asking people, how are you, Wolf Clan? How are you, Aniyun Wire? And it was very important why I asked that question. It certainly wasn't to be, my Indian's bigger than your little Indian, but it's also to make sure that the narrative stays correct. Because if we don't have the correct narrative, you're just going to be swinging and shadow boxing like Trey when Ricky got killed in Boys in the Hood, right? Remember when Cuba Gooding Jr. was just swinging at the air, those motherfuckers, kind of like that, right? But never really swinging at nothing. He didn't get at the target that he wanted, right? So I said that to say these are some of the little spicy meatballs and caveats about history that we were never told. We are going to do a lot of time traveling. So when I say urban Indian country news, this is going to affect our people. When I say, affect American Indian people, especially the ones that are misclassified, so that we can understand what exactly the history is. Because when we all say, people say that they have Cherokee, you got to understand what that means. Now, there was some really different things politically, and today we're going to talk about some of those things politically. So I'm going to show the article for the people that are on YouTube, but we're also concurrently running a broadcast for the first time. This is our season 1, episode 1 broadcast on Blog Talk Radio again. So it's been a long time since we've been on Blog Talk, but we also have No Grandma Killers Radio, hosted by Wild Feathers on Blog Talk Radio. We're also going to be on iTunes, Spotify shortly, and a couple of other places. You'll be able to dig us up, especially with this type of content. So I want to kind of make it to where, so when I do the reading, it's not because you guys that have the visual can read, but it's so the people that are listening are able to understand what it is that we're speaking about. Okay. I promise not to, try to double talk too much, speak so fast that I mispronounce everything and stuff like that. So that is the thing with that. So you'll be able to read it on screen, but for everybody else that is listening through Blog Talk Radio, they'll be able to hear what's in the article, why it's pertinent, so they'll be able to be interactive and join the build as well. So we also do have a phone number for you guys. And you do know that we are going to have the Grandma Killers tour. So as of now, we have 2 dates. We have the 4th of July weekend, and we think that that'll be a good time to give plenty of people time after they get out of, this quarantine, to see how things kind of mix up, if things are eradicated, or if it, exacerbates and perpetuates, and, the rest. So we think July is a good time. Shout out to Virginia. Virginia has always kept it from the beginning. They made it very clear that they were going to open June 10th, and they said that back in like February, So shout out to Virginia for keeping it real. Okay. And they already made it clear that that was just going to be the starting point. Where other states, from my understanding, Ohio, thought that it was going to be over on May 1st, and then their governor has now extended it to, I believe, May 28th or 29th or something similar to that. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We over at No Grandma Killers. We over at No Grandma Killers trying to make it do what it do. We do have a new number, so if y'all want to call in, y'all definitely can. I'll throw the number up. When I throw the number up, you guys will be able to call in. But right now, we're just waiting on Cuzzo to come so he can be part of the build. And we're going to run through a couple of things, some really interesting caveats. So that's that. So what's going on out there? Let's talk real quick before Cuzzo comes through. Come on, I'm going to throw the number up there. Y'all call me, and we could talk about what's going on real quick. Going on in your hood. So let's chop it up with Phoenix real quick. Just chop it up with me real quick. I miss y'all. What's going on? Everything is good. I am happy the sun was shining today. It doesn't take much. I'm telling you, it's been so cloudy with a chance to meatballs out here. I was so excited that the sun actually came out. I'm just a bursting ray of sunshine. I know y'all can hear it. Y'all can feel it. I feel like a grandmother's hug right now. Y'all don't even know. You don't even know it. You don't even know it. But yeah, so other than that, give us a call. So we got this number here, and it's going to be 563-999-3440. Give us a call. Give me a call. We'll chop it up real quick. Got any questions or whatever you want to ask me? It's no bias. I'm not feeling no type of way. And we can talk in the meantime. So cousin get here. He was in the middle of something. And then we kind of pushed it back. But we here now. We're just going to make it do what it do. Love y'all beauties, and I'm glad y'all here. Y'all healthy and all that. Your birthday in 2 weeks. You a Taurus. Ow. My baby and my mama's birthday is in 2 weeks. I rock with Tauruses hard. I get along with them so well. Grandma's a Taurus. She on the 19th. Yeah. One of my best friends. Her birthday's May 6th. Shout out to Nadine. And rest in peace. To a few people that passed away up top. I know y'all aching out there. My heart goes out to y'all. Tony Parrish, such a kind guy, funny dude. Sleep in peace. Also, Ratty out here. I don't know if y'all know from Queens. He passed away. We want to give him a shout out. There's a couple things going on down here, but I definitely want to give a big rest in peace to those two. Hope I'm not forgetting anybody, and if I do, I will definitely hit him up on the comeback. But I love to send a shout out to my homegirl Nadine. I really miss her so much. She was 61 years old, and she was probably like one of my favorite people on the planet. She was up there. with me, one of my golden girls, and I miss her terribly. I miss her terribly. So shout out to her. Her birthday's coming soon. But I rock out with y'all Tauruses. I rock out with y'all. What's up, Kay, beloved? How y'all doing? What's good? It's good to see you. It's good to see you, sir. Everything is healthy. I'm glad y'all doing good. Y'all around, so that means it's really, it's all good. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that. So you definitely, if y'all want to call in real quick, chop it up with Moon real quick before Cuzzo get here, we can, and we start this build and we get it popping. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. One thing I know about the Tauruses, y'all, you good with them, but if you cross them, you lost them forever, ever, ever. Tauruses and Cancers hold grudges, man. They don't forget shit. Mm-hmm. They good folks, but if you cross them, you lost them. I do know that much. I do know that much. Oh yeah, we definitely do. And so that's that. But what's going on, y'all? Yo, let me tell y'all. Shout out to that. What's that dude? Vince McMahon. That man is absolutely out his tree. So I was trying to figure out going through the DVR box. I don't really watch a lot of TV. But I was going through the DVR box. And I was looking at so many things that was on there. And why wrestling? They still watch wrestling. My cousin still watches wrestling. I'm not really sure why, but I haven't watched wrestling probably since the 80s or something. With the children, yeah, you get them the tickets so they can go to WWE and stuff like that, the Raw and the SmackDown and all of that. But right now, currently, as everybody else across the damn planet basically is under quarantine, you got the WWE niggas going crazy. There's no audience, but they are in the ring going full wall. So I don't know who's paying for that, SmackDown, pay-per-view, or whatever. But I'm telling y'all, people is out there daggone mine. So, yeah, I got it totally set up a little different here. So again, like I said, we're concurrently also on Blog Talk, and we're also going to be here. So what's up, Mr. Waldo? How you doing, beloved? How's everything? Michael Brown, what's happening, good brother? Hi, 20. What's up, Keto? Yes. So, other than that, we got some juicy people. I'm so excited. I don't want to rush Cuzzo because he a barber. He can't zeke nobody. He got to get it in. Get it in. So we waiting on him a little bit, but I definitely was excited. I didn't want to keep anybody waiting. I guess I'm gonna get to it. Let me start with this one. Un momento. Okay, so which one am I gonna start with? We was cooking it up, cooking it up. See, the study is always grand when you do it. Oh man, the study, you just, you know. Okay, so hold on one second. This is so. Dun, dun, dun. I'm gonna do a screen share. One second. Do, do, do. It was such a nice day today. I enjoyed today so much. It was so nice. I thought it was over early and it was just like it lasted. It's still out there. I want to go back. I want to go back. I want to go back. I want to go back and sit out in it. It was so dope. It was so dope. That was exactly what I needed. Can't wait to get down south. I'm telling you. I can't wait. Okay, is this it? So I got a nice little piece right here. One second. Let's get to it. One moment. So sorry, y'all. I think this is it right here. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. 1, 2. I'll pull them all up. Do, 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 do. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so we're gonna start with this one here. Let's start with this one here. Let me get this little screen share up for you. Make this nice and make this a little bigger. Make this a little bigger. Okay, so I want to focus a little bit on Charlestown. There's a lot of activity that's going down in Charlestown, South Carolina, and we are going to start dissecting it and getting down to the nitty gritty. Grandfather used to say the nitty gritty. Let's get on down, get on down to the nitty gritty. 1 second. Got to get on down to the nitty gritty. Okay, let's do this screen share. Let's do that. Just want to make sure. Mm-mm-mm. So, when I was talking about the carpenters and stuff like that, see, they all traveled in the same places. And, people were saying, oh, they're not real, Muay Thai ain't real, and all this other crazy stuff. But anyway, we're going to start off with this. Let me just start off with this. Let's just start off just because um, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to show you guys how our people were over in Great Britain. So this article is from the Public Advertiser, and this is London, July 4th, 1758, and this is a little part that they have about America. So Charlestown, April 6th. Several considerable parties of Catawba and Cherokee Indians set out above a month ago for the northward to join the English in their operations against the French and their Indians. And we hear that the little carpenter, y'all know who the little carpenter is? We'll get back to that, is on his way to town to give an account to his late exploits himself. So now, this goes on to say Boston, May 8th, all of our regiments are now complete, and at a moderate computation, near 1/3 of effective men in this province are now engaged in His Majesty's service by sea and land. So you see that they're talking about Boston, because now we're going to lead into the Confederate series that we were talking about when we were speaking about our ancestors fighting in the Confederate War, the War of 1812. We're going to start getting a little more detail into that kind of bill. So I want to make sure that people are clear, because when your family disappears or some of the migration patterns occur, they are occurring because there's a shift in something that's happening. So now we're going to take it back as far as we can and start giving a little timeline so you're able to place yourself around specific people at the point where they will recognize as these type of Cherokees. But they still have, even though they have names like Little Carpenter, they still have names like Carpenter, Fields, Doherty, right? They have these names. Paris, they have these names. Langley. There's a bunch of other, and they're associated with the clans that they married into. Okay, so that's also going to trickle down into your Muay Thai and the other people that if you just try and look up Muay Thai, you are not going to get to him. Now, they spoke about him before, and if you did know, then you would know that these people, there was also another one that I believe was Shawnee, and I remember when we were young, and this is actually in school, his name was Blackfish. and he had something to do with the fort with Daniel Boone. There was some sort of either a massacre or something like that at the fort where Daniel Boone was, and that is how I remember Daniel Boone, the whole Kentucky, West Virginia territory. Now, prior to it being West Virginia, now you know West Virginia was not established until the Emancipation. So when you see places like Monongolia and those type of towns, that still was a part of Virginia, right? And a part of Ohio, what we now know to be Ohio. So I want to explain a little bit about the military records too and how they went. And I can just do a read simple just because it makes it really clear on the reason why it's important to know these military records. So now you can see by this right here, and I guess you guys can see it, you can see that they are talking about different types of military engagements, and they are all going to make sense at some point. And now you can see certain names, you can see certain companies, captains, and they tell you where they're coming from, where they're going. You learn about different types of skirmishes, different types of trips that they went. Now, this is a London paper. So keep in mind. So I found, I told them, you know, they tried to laugh at me like I didn't know what I was talking about. Just because I don't show every damn thing don't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. And if I'm talking about it, then I know something about it. I'm not going to just, you know, talk some shit I don't know nothing about. So anyway, now what happens is you'll be able to compartmentalize which war, and it also gives you better detail to guess the ancestor's age. Now, especially when it comes to the men down into the military, it could say that your grandfather was 17, but he really could have been 9. And he was the drummer boy in the army, right? He was the one that went and got water. This is the type of hires and practices that they had. They was doing this up until the 1940s, kicking in people's doors and snatching their son out and taking them different places that they had no business taking them, and doing all types of experiments and stuff. And that's for the stuff that people know about and for the stuff that they don't know about. Everybody knows about Tuskegee and stuff. There's a whole nother thing going on in different camps that have taken place. Yeah, and when that person, those people are ready to tell their stories, I will be right there to assist them in whatever way it is to get it shaken, because some people owe them some act right for that. There was some major pain that was thrown generations and lifetimes from things that they did, even just in the recent 1900s, which is a decade that at least most of us can say that we have derived from. Whether it's the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or the 90s, we have been in that particular century. We have experienced those things in the 20th century. So, okay, so this article now also goes on to talk about Philadelphia, and this is May 25th of the same year. You know, they get the wire. They had to put everything on public notice. So this is why it's so dope to go through these newspapers. So we're going to do these really dope series on a whole bunch of different newspapers. It's a whole new build that a lot of people haven't been jacking. So, you know, you heard it here first. If people start, you know, doing the same thing, then you already know where they got it from. They jacking. Okay? They jacking. Swagger jacking, swagger jacking. We ain't acting like it don't happen. Bars. Okay, so now this is Philadelphia. Monday last arrived here, Captain Tickholm from Halifax, by whom we advised the Sir Charles Hardy had taken a French frigate after an obstinate engagement and blowing the fresh, whatever that is, that he cannot open his lower ports, and 2 French ships on the line of 4 frigates had got to Louisburg. Okay, so that doesn't really have anything to do with it. So whatever happened, now they're on their way back. They have British Gratitude. You see these down here in Sadler Wells. They would be performing a new entertainment of music and dancing. So this is a little group they got going on, Rejoicing the Night, British Gratitude, the paintings, music, and habits all entirely new, blah, blah, blah. So this is what they were doing. But we do know that there was absolutely mention, and Charlestown is going to be a hotbed for a lot of Catawba, Cherokee activity, a lot of specifically Cherokee activity in South Carolina. You will hear of different things that they're looking as an epicenter for specific businesses that were going. So during different regimes. Now, keep in mind, you will see who favored the British, who favored the French, who had the Spanish allegiance, who was just pro-Indian and didn't want to be bothered with any foreigners, who was pro-slavery, who was freeing the slaves, who was being kidnapped. And you'll see a lot of the Indians being transported and taken into different places in order to fight. So back to the land bounties, you can also tell some of the wars. I want to show you guys how to tell which war they fought in based on what the land bounty is and during what year. Okay, so they didn't always get it. So for instance, if they fought in the in the Revolutionary War, they very well may not have even gotten the land until 1820, 1830. And the original land that they were given to fight for those skirmishes in the American Revolution was in Ohio. It was actually territory in Ohio. So according to the rankings, was how much land you got. So any private, let's say any private would be able to get 160 acres. And then when you have the ensign would maybe get another 60 acres in addition to that. All the way up until you get to Major General, which the Major General, I think it's like 1,100 acres, which was like the maximum. So you can tell by some of those estates what their rankings were, and you can kind of match that up by what those land bounty warrants are as well. So now you'll be able to get a good timeline. You'll be able to get a good timeline. So let me check and see if Cuzzo's here. Hold on 1 second, child. Let me see. Okay, hold on 1 second. So how y'all beloveds on? I hope everything good. All right, let's see. Got another one. Okay. This one here is like super dope. This one here is like, let me see. Okay. Now. 1 second. Here's Cuzzo. Let me send them that link. Halito. There you go, cuz. How are you?
Juwan, Halito. Can you hear me now? Okay, cool.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I wanted to say about the don't forget about the indenture service when they got 50 acres after they finished the indenture. That's it.
Right. Oh yes, that part too. What's up, Queen Mystique? What's happening, beloved? So I just want to make sure, Stacy, give a mic check. Make sure you guys can hear Cuzzo. Press 1 in the chat if you can hear Spirit Wolf.
Yeah, mic check. Can y'all hear me, Indian country? What's up, y'all?
Drop a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear Cuzzo.
Yeah, let me know. And I'm not gonna be able to see the screen, so I don't know how I can do that.
Okay, so good. They can hear him good. Okay, that's peace. That's peace. That's peace.
All right, cool.
All right.
You know how I can see the screen?
If you want the link, or if you open up YouTube, you could do that. You can look and see the screen. It might be a little delayed.
Open up YouTube, but I'm hearing two of your voices. You know what? I went to Facebook. Let me go to YouTube. Hold on. No, okay. I can go to YouTube.
Okay.
Right, I went to Facebook.
You want the link? Is that going to be better?
No grandma?
Yeah, we're on No Grandmas. Do you want the link?
Are we on? Yeah, how come it's not popping up right now? It should be popping up. Let me go. Oh, there we go.
Do you want the link?
Okay. I'm here.
Okay. All right. So I was just kind of telling them I'm actually going to go over that timeline that we were talking about. But I was just letting them know that how they'll be able to make a distinction through the service, through some of the timeline for the men in the family, particularly the grandfathers that fought in these wars, and how you can differentiate by how many acres of land, what their rank was, and you can kind of match them up. If you see 10 John Joneses, you'll be able to match them up by what their rank is. So if you know your grandfather was a general and you see a land patent for 1100, you can pretty much confirm that because that's what it was hitting for a particular skirmish, and depending on how long they got it. And even they did give out those land, but the bounty warrants posthumously too. So even the heirs were able to acquire them. So this wasn't just something that the men got. So oftentimes you will see women. And then when the men were away, who was the head of household? You'll see the woman as head of household with X amount of free people, inhabitants, so on and so forth. And they also would manage the business in other places. So if they had a ranch in another county, then you will also see them on multiple censuses, especially if all of the men are away for whatever reason, specifically for war or for work or from being kidnapped. Because there was tons of Indians being kidnapped. And we're going to talk a little bit about all of this. So we got a cool little series coming through. We're going to break in on these Cherokees just so people are clear who is who. Those people still exist today. So if you are attaching yourself to them and they do have a copyright on that name, you still need to know. But I'm going to read something that is really cool. And it goes like, this is like, well, let's see for yourself. Let's see. Let's get to the top of the site here. Okay. I'm going to do a screen share. Okay. So this is a chronological table, and this is the Cherokee Phoenix, an Indians advocate in July 30th of 1828. So this is a chronological table, right? And it names several of my family members that people said, they didn't exist. But these are some different things. This right here was in 1828. So when you hear how immaculate this article is, it's really cool to have this because this is a lot of the things that we don't have any clue about, but there's absolutely documentation in other places, particularly other nations, regarding these people. So this says towards 2,200 years before Columbus, the Emperor of Gold City, or Melilo, Melilo, don't know where that is, ruled over all the nation, from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. The nations were called Talagahi and divided into two tribes of the mountains and plains, Otali and Olata. Towards the year 400 of Christ, or 1100 before Columbus, the Otali sent a large colony to Mexico where they are called Tlatuytsi. Tlatuytsi. Okay. Towards 500, the dynasty of the Telahim, perhaps the Telatahimi, ruled over the empire of Appalachia, perhaps Awalatsa. extending from latitude 33 to 37. Oh, you got to look that latitude up. It's still the same now as it was before, give or take a little bit. This dynasty still ruling in 1640. So now we know that this dynasty was still ruling in these particular portions in 1640, right? Towards 1150, expulsion of the nation Matika. In 1540, at the invasion of Soto, Queen Kosasikwi or Huawatsikwi ruled over Silaki. In 1565, the emperor of Tortina, excuse me. In 1643, the king of Atsalaka was yet dependent on the empire of Appalachia. In 1700, Litsi was the king of Salagi, but a revolution takes place. He is driven south in 1716. In 1717, Chamaskula or Samakula is king of Salagi. In 1736, Moitoi was emperor of the Teleko and Salagi. Ostanako. Say that again.
Yep.
In 1751, Ostanako was king of Ichoda and Salagi. In 1770,
1736.
oh, Moitoi, yeah, was emperor of Teleko and Salagi. Teleko is what we now call Tennessee. Moitoi was emperor of Teleko and Salagi, which is now known as Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. In 1785, Ka'otoi, king of Tokyo, makes peace with the United States. Did you notice that it changed? He made peace with the United States because it's now formed in 1785, right?
Right.
In 1791, Silioha was great chief of Salagi. In 1798, Skagua was the great chief of the first Treaty of Teleko. In 1804, Molatuski was great chief at the second Treaty of Teleko. In 1805, Inoli was great chief at the third Treaty of Teleko. In 1816, Nahatahui, or Path Killer, is the great chief. Question. Give the names of all the great supreme chiefs of the nation as far back as memory or traditions go, and try to fix their successive order line. Question. What is the substance of the oldest traditions as yet preserved? How far back do they go? Do they not point to a connection with the nations Appalachia, Timakuas, Amana, Matika, Sahama, Marico, and all parts of the ancient empire of Telagawi, which must be Salagi? Question. What have been the ancient wars of the Salagi? They were asking this back in 1828. What nations did they deem foes, and which friends and allies? What nations have been incorporated or adopted? What were the causes of the separation of the Salagi from the Appalachia towards 1716 or 112 years ago? Was it not their alliance with the Spaniards, while the Salagi became allies of the English of Carolina? Question. Whereabout were the holy mountains of Olaimi, the capital of Malilo, and the lake Setsiomi, mentioned in 1643, as yet seen by Bridgestock? Where was Telemico capital? Hold on. Let's go to the next page because that one is going to be in. Try and get off of this. Hold on one second. Let me get to the next page. So I had to So it's going to start to make sense and explain why everything got so chaotic, so out of control, why so much, you know, why so much animosity, so much hush hush, so much quiet, so much, uh, um, you know, why everybody is confused, not confused, but the first thing that they know is Cherokee, and there's a lot of reasons for it. We're going to start getting to the bottom of these reasons. There is reasons why you know that, reasons why you heard that, reasons why you think that. There are reasons why you heard you were Blackfoot, reasons why. Those are particular different groups and sanctions of people, and we're going to start breaking them down in antiquity through these public notices, because most of these were public notices. I could show you public notices from Massachusetts and Boston where they were talking about them celebrating their first Thanksgiving in the 1600s and how they were, yeah. So Crispus Attucks, they have a treasure trove of different information. And I know how to disrespect the borderlines that they set up for what I know to be the proximity and place thereof, that being imaginary lines, but not interrupting the locations, the longitude and latitude of my ancestors, where they went, where they lived, where they were buried, where they fought, where they died, where everything went down, where they toiled the soil and whatnot. So, with respect to all of that, I understand how the migration patterns go. We're going to show how people were taken into Canada. So now when you are going to have an opportunity to look at Canadian records, you'll see that they were always kind of taken back on their promises. Now, I mentioned the word miracle, right? I did stop the screen share. I'm going to go back there. Now, if you guys think back to when I did the build on Liberia, and we talked about the language of miracle, when they were expelled from Ghana in 1971, by 1973, none of the descendants of the original Americans that left from the United States and settled into Liberia, none of their 8, maybe even 10 generations of new kinfolk that they have now, new progeny, right? Because they're new progeny compared to the first people, Tubman and all of them that went over there in the early 1800s, right? So they still sound like Kentucky Fried Chicken to this day. So it didn't matter what type of different admixes of different tribes of other Africans or people that have come from different places into this specific area to Liberia. You know that that was absolutely an American colony. So if that man has never stepped foot in the United States and has been so completely surrounded by Africans all his entire life, and that's all that he knows, except for the fact that he knows his ancestors started off in America, why does he still sound like he just left Kentucky last year and moved to Africa within the last, like he just grew up there? He from here, but he from the South, but he grew up over there. It doesn't make any sense. So now in 1971, after Ghana kicks the Liberians out of Ghana, they had to do what? Stop speaking what? Miracle. So now that's a good clue that the people that were expelled and sent to Sierra Leone and sent to Liberia. Now Sierra Leone was established in the 1700s, the early 1800s. Remember those Amistad guys, the disposition of the case in 1838 to 1842, I believe, with Amistad, was because they were already free in Sierra Leone when the Portuguese kidnapped them and tried to take them where? To Cuba. So they were also, the disposition was that they had the right to kill, to maintain their liberty, primarily because they were free in their, from where they came from. So could those, how did they know English? Could those possibly have been the descendants of the people that fought in the Revolutionary War? And I'm going to tell you, they took people from Louisiana because right after the purchase, they also had the skirmishes with the French in different areas, right? They were looking for the territory in Canada as well. British, Spain, and France also had territory. Britain had quite a bit of territory in what we know to be French Canada right now. And so did Spain. So if you're looking for records of 1700s, you might want to find who they calling the so-called first settlers of Chicago. They'll tell you John somebody is like the first white person born in Chicago. What does that tell you? When was Chicago adopted? How long? If Chicago may have been established before Illinois was. Keep in mind, Illinois was a confederation, like the Powhatan Confederation. Illinois was also the Wabash Confederation. So they had their Great Lakes region. You have your Winnebagos, your Chippewas, your one that your boy stole Lineages from, the Ojibwe. You have the Kickapoo. You have the Sauk and Fox, right? Isn't that funny how they got the baseball team? Sauk, White Sox, Red Sox, and then the Fox, right? Yeah, but anyway. So they have so much going on in these articles that it should be able to give you a timeline. So we're hoping by the time that we finish this series, you'll be on your genealogy. We don't want people to get away from the genealogy. Try and make it interesting again. We're not just going to sit there and look at census records, because that's not what it's about. If you want to sit there and look at census records and hope that you find every single Indian that is in your family, you're not going to win that way. And we know that, right? So nobody sent you on the wild goose chase. And I've been saying, we've all been saying for quite some time, right? Well, we have been saying for some time, don't look for the paper. Don't worry about what it doesn't say. Worry about what it does say. Worry about what it doesn't. And in the interim and in the background, you look and you dig. So if you can't find them here, look on different records. Google them. They have books that have nothing to do with what's going to come up in your popular feed, top 10 hits when you Google such and such, right? Google John Brown. Put in your ancestors' date of birth. If you want to do that, and then see if there's any text that comes up, put in the county, put in free Negro, put in a description of whatever it is that you think that you see, and try and follow up on that thread and get more supporting things to help you along. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes slow down. Don't just go using the tools. Actually see what the tools do. For instance, let me show this. Let me pull this up. I'm going to get back to that article. I had to go over to the next page, and then I'm going to show you something else, because let's see. Okay, so here we go. Let's go back to that article. I'm going to go back to the other page. That last line, so you know where I left off, in case because I did run off a little bit. Now that last question was the sixth question, and it said, whereabout were the holy mountains of Olaimi, the capital Malilo, and the Lake Siami mentioned in the 1643 as yet seen by Bridgestock? Where was the Telemoko capital and the... Okay, so I'm going to go over to the next page, and now I'm going to screen share so you guys can see.
Temple.
Oh, you're reading it? You can read it, cuz, if you got it up already, too.
Yeah, temple seen in 1540 by Soto.
Let me see. This one here. I have the next page right here. There it is.
Okay.
Have been and are filled by persons of this description, from such leaders who pay more regard to the acquisition of wealth and the good and interests of their country. We have no reason to expect any solid and permanent advantage. It's not our remark correct when it's considered that many, and some who were members of the legislative body which established the press, possessing all requisite means, will not subscribe for the Cherokee Phoenix, which costs only... No, this is not it.
That's not that.
They didn't give us the other inside. Hold on. I went to the second page.
It said, you said, where was Talimeko, capital of Temple,
where did it go?
Seen in 1540 by Soto. At the top of the page.
At the top of the next column. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay. My bad. Thanks, cuz. Okay, so let me put this back on the screen there. The top. I had to go to the top. The other. Okay. The temple seen in 1540 by Soto. Was it Telequo? Question: what traditions, fables exist concerning the origin of the nation? the monuments they have built anciently. Are no migrations and changes of places remembered? In 1540, the Salagi extended all over California, Carolina, part of Georgia, and as far as the Ohio. But where did they dwell before? Have they no memory of having crossed the sea to have come from the south? What places were deemed the most holy as first seats of ancestors? Question. Have no traditions have been preserved of other migrations or colonies besides those of the Tallahassee, Matica, and the last to Arkansas sent off by Salagi? So this is C.F. Rafinesque. And this person, he may have been the printer. I see the PR. And he also has PS. What names do the Salagi give to the United States and to each state known to them? Also to each Indian nation known to them, and to the largest river in the United States and to their mountains. That's the end of that right there. It also has some words here, and it has a phonetic key. Yeah. And it has the key here again. As we said, this is from the July 30th, 1828. Wednesday, 1828. So that's what was going on there. They gave that brief description and then posed all these other questions to the reader. I thought it was super interesting. Definitely wanted to share that. There are tons more for this kind of bill, We're just going to walk through a lot.
Do we have any questions?
Are there any questions? You definitely could call. If y'all have any questions, y'all can hit that number up. It's valid right now. Y'all can hit that number up if you want to call 563-999-3440. Definitely you can do that. I'll drop the link in the chat too if you're uncomfortable coming in through Blog Talk. Coming in through YouTube, most definitely you can come through. So I dropped that.
Let me tell you what I know. I noticed one about the when you were talking about the miracle, that was basically a tribe of one of the, so to speak. There was 100 of them, like the Appalachian and all of them. And then they had these different names of the Cherokees that they was naming. This stuff is just so dope. But up at the top where it says, it says towards chronological table. It says towards 2,200 years before Columbus, the emperor of Gold City, or Manila, ruled over all the nations from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. All right, where are the Great Lakes at?
That is Michigan. That is Ohio. There's New York. Right.
Minnesota, around that area, right?
Correct.
So it's basically from Canada all the way to Gulf of Mexico. Basically, the Gulf of Mexico will be what, Louisiana?
Yeah.
So it will basically be what this article is saying back in
Alabama, Florida. Right.
In 1828, this article is saying that area between the Great Lakes and the Gulf of Mexico belongs to the Cherokee. In short, it was basically talking about Salagi mentioned in history of the fragments printed. I wish to know whether it's talking about Manila, right? Ruled over all the nations of the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. The nations were called Salagagi and divided into two tribes of the mountains and plains, Tali and Olata. So Tali, we get Tali and all that from, and then you got the Olata, which is basically the same people. But the Manila, I guess, is that confederation, or the older name, so to speak, of the Cherokees or what. We're saying that they're ruling all of that area. Not the Washington. I know that Washington is in that area, but right here he's giving it to the emperor of the Gold City.
You can certainly
that's kind of interesting.
you can certainly look up those places. And if you're able, to see the article, certainly check out those places. Marico, that's gonna be very interesting. So I'm gonna bug out off that thread because that was super interesting. And you don't always see things one way or another from the when you have that tunnel vision and you keep your eye on one thing. But sometimes you're able to enjoy when you take yourself away from the repetition of the things that uh, tend to become frustrating to you. You can kind of step back and still keep the ball rolling by looking into things, especially these kind of things. Give me 1 second.
Chief Two Hawks, I made a comment. He said that it was a professor at Brown University. I can't think of his name right now. I think he was I don't know if he was an anthropologist, but he said that it was over 5 million Indians taken from here
Yes.
to the islands and taken over to Europe
and other
to
places.
Africa.
Yes, indeed.
To other places, but mainly into Europe and Africa, to Spain and over to Africa, and so to the Muslims.
That's correct.
But we know by record that it was only 300,000 that supposedly Africans that came here.
Now,
So
but
300,000.
wait a minute. 300,000 slaves that came here. It doesn't mean that they were African because they weren't coming in from after 1808.
Excuse me. Thank you for saying that.
So we don't even have any. Right.
Well, what their little thing is, they saying that it was 12 million that left, and it was supposed to be only 300,000 that reached here from that demonstration. But we know that they were only called Negroes; they weren't called Africans because they were basically saved a lot of times where they were from. Right. But what I'm saying is how, regardless, it was 300,000. 300,000 compared to 5 million.
Right.
It's a lot.
Right.
We got 300,000 incomers, or so to speak, or really just a lot of times it's just somebody you just taking from Boston or from Pequot or from Rhode Island, and you just taking them to Charleston, right? Or taking them to Louisiana, right? You know what I mean, and stuff like that. So, but they have documented that 5 million came over there.
That's right.
That's a lot of people.
That's right. It sure
is. That goes along to what you're saying about Liberia and all of that. I mean, even before Liberia, we already had 5 million. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Aboriginals taken from here over there already.
That's right. That's so true.
And not only that,
and they left out of where? South Carolina, which they always have demonized South Carolina, particularly Charlestown, as the place where all the slaves came in. That was the epicenter of Indian business. And I'm pretty sure, according to this, they did not have a lot of interest in slaves. There's some other interesting people that we're going to talk about later on in the series, such as the Wateree, the Congaree, the Sugaree, the Waxhaw. Cousin, why don't you read that article about them going into Charlotte?
Oh, okay.
Sure. Shout out to everybody in the chat. It's good to see you guys there. Come on through. Definitely you can call up here. We'll give you guys an opportunity to call. Right now, let's just kind of get through this, and I'll make sure we leave some time to call in case you guys got any questions. But that number is 563-999-3440.
Okay. All right. This article is from the Yorkville Inquirer.
Let me pull it up for them. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Pull it up for them. What was the date on that?
The date is November 4th, 1874.
You say 1875, right? Okay, go for it. Yeah, I have it. Go for it, cuz.
Okay, give me a second. Let me get back to it. South Carolina, Thursday, November 4th, 1875. History of South Carolina. Written for the Yorkville Inquirer, Historical Sketches of the Early Settlement of South Carolina by Reverend Robert Lathan. Continued from number 42. The summer of 1728 was in South Carolina excessively hot and dry. The crops were cut off, and so great was the evaporation that many of the small streams and ponds of water were dried up. Wild animals were reduced to the greatest straits, and many of them perished for want of water. This drought was followed in August by a terrific storm. The streets of Charlestown were covered with water driven in from the river. Houses and trees were blown down. 23 ships lying in the harbor were dashed with, with violence on shore.
Hey, cuz, you there? Are you there, cuz? Okay, I'm not sure what happened. Let me make sure everything he's still there. Hold on one second, guys. Hold on one second. There you go. Are you there, cuz?
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no,
Somebody called me. I hung everybody up.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. I thought I did something. Okay, there you go.
Okay, let me find where I was at. I'm I was right here. This is something about violence, right?
Yes.
Excuse me, everybody. I'll find it right now. Just let me start right here. This drought was followed in August by a terrific storm. The streets of Charlestown were covered with water driven in from the river. Houses and trees were blown down. 23 ships lying in the harbor were dashed with violence on shore and totally destroyed. Only two large vessels, the Fox and the Garland, outrode the storm. These were warships stationed at the entrance of the harbor for the protection of the town, for security from the flood. The inhabitants of the town were forced to take refuge in the upper stories of their houses. It may not be uninteresting to remark that this was the third hurricane that had visited the country since its settlement by the English. The first was in 1700, the second in 1713. These, as we will see, were followed by others at irregular periods. The storm of 1728 was followed by the yellow fever. This was the third time that this dreadful disease made its appearance. So fatal was it at this time that it was often difficult for friends to obtain assistance in burying their dead. The people in the country became alarmed, and no person from the plantations was permitted to visit the town, lest the disease might be contracted and carried into the country. The town was dependent upon the plantations in its vicinity for supplies. None being brought in, the town was threatened with famine. In the year 1728, the proprietors, with the exception of Lord Carteret, sold their interest in the soil of Carolina in the King of Great Britain. The purchase of the 7/8 of this extensive territory was made for the insignificant sum of $87,500. The payment was to be made in 1729. In 1719, the government of the state was surrendered to the King of England. Now the soil was bought, and the province became directly under the control of the Crown of England. All things considered, this was a good thing. Under the proprietary government, it is very probable that the colony, I'll move down some. Under the proprietary government, it's very probable that the colony would have struggled for a few years and then died. By the act of the British Parliament, power was granted the King of England to appoint a governor for each of the Carolinas. In 1729, the provinces was divided into North and South Carolina, but the division was not affected until 1732. The line was not run until 1736, and then with no degree of accuracy. Soon as the province was placed wholly in the hands of the king, everything began to assume a new and favorable aspect. Among the first undertakings of the royal government was an attempt to consolidate the Indian tribes and form with them alliances of friendship. To effect this object, Alexander Cumming was sent out with full power to treat with the various tribes living in the regions now occupied by northwestern counties of the state. In 1730, Cummings penetrated the forest as far as Kiowitown, 300 miles from Charlestown. Here in April, the chiefs met and, in a friendly manner, entered into negotiations for the general welfare of themselves, their people, and the English settlers. 6 of the chiefs accompanied Cummings to Charlestown, where they were joined by another, and all 7 set sail for England, and in the month of June arrived safely in England. They landed at Dover. Thence they went to London and were ushered into the presence of the King of England. Speeches were made by the Indians and by the King George, and by King George, and finally a treaty was drawn up and signed by a Lord Pupple, Secretary of the Lord's Commission of Trade and Plantations for and in behalf of the English crown, and by the marks of the 6 chiefs for and in behalf of the Cherokees. These 6 chiefs had gone to England as deputies of Moytoy. One more time. These 6 chiefs had gone to England as deputies of Moytoy, the chief warrior of the Cherokees. And, of course, their action was regarded as binding. In 1731, these Indian deputies returned to America. They accompanied Robert Johnson, who had been appointed by the king governor of South Carolina. This was the same Robert Johnson who was governor of South Carolina when the proprietary government in 1719 was suspended by the royal. The appointing of Johnson governor showed that he had not in the least forfeited the confidence of either people or king. He had struggled hard to retain the proprietary form of government, but he failed. He did his duty. He was faithful to his employers, the proprietors of the province, and now in 1731, he is again honored with the office of governor. The choice was certainly a wise one. Robert Johnson was thoroughly acquainted with everything connected with the colony. He knew the men. Thomas Brewton was appointed lieutenant governor and Robert Wright chief justice. William Bull, James Kinloch, Alexander Skane, John Fenwick, Arthur Middleton, Joseph Ragg, Francis Young, John Hamilton, and Thomas Waring were the remaining members of the council. From the commencement of the administration, Johnson manifested great interest in the royal government and also in the people of the colony. He recommended the assembly to pass a vote of thanks to His Majesty the King of England and for his great kindness manifested toward the colony in purchasing 7/8 of the soil of the province. He urged that the laws for the suppression of vice be enforced and that the children of youth of the settlement be carefully educated and the best possible means for the promotion of virtue. Toward the settlers, who were at this time poor and many of them sad from sore bereavements which they had suffered, the English government was kind and gentle and encouraging. The quick rates, which were brought at the time the soil was purchased, were by an act of royal bounty remitted. The king sent 70 pieces of cannon to the colony and instructed Governor Johnson to build a fort at Port Royal and another at Altamaha. A company of foot soldiers was granted the colony for its protection by land, and ships of war were stationed in the harbors and along the coast for the protection of the commerce of the colony. These and similar acts of kindness and generosity stimulated the people to struggle against the difficulties of the wilderness with energy and hope. The colony began to assume an importance which attracted the attention of the large mercantile cities of England. The merchants of London, Bristol, and Liverpool established branch houses of their businesses in Charlestown. Large numbers of Negroes were brought from Africa by these European merchants and sold to the settlers in South Carolina. In return, rice, silk, timber, furs, and leather were sold by the settlers to these merchants. Exports of the colony now began to be so expensive as to secure to the people credit in England. During the year 1731, nearly 42,000 barrels of rice were sent by the colony to England and to other colonies in America. And 1,500 Negroes were brought into the state. It would seem that the year 1731 marks a very important period in the history of South Carolina. Prior to this period, the inhabitants enjoyed very few comforts. The houses in which people lived were miserable wooden huts. In Charlestown, there were in 1731 between 5 and 6,000 dwelling houses, most of which were wooden structures. The county possessed fewer artificial comforts than the town. The farmers at the early day were notoriously slovenly. All that the majority of them aimed at was to procure a sufficient amount of the absolute necessities of life. This could be accomplished almost without effort. The restrictions which heretofore had been laid on commerce and the inefficiency of the proprietary governments had conspired to make the farmers careless and indifferent. So soon as the provinces became a part and parcel of the British Dominion, a marked change took place. The farmers became energetic, and in the year 1731, 270 ships were employed in exporting the surplus productions of the colony. The king instructed Governor Johnson to extend the settlements of the territory in various directions. For the purpose of effecting this object, he was ordered to lay out 11 towns. It was ordered that the district connected with each of these towns should contain a tract of 20,000 acres of land. These towns were to be located on the Altamaha, Savannah, Santee, Popon, Wateree, Black, Waccamaw, and Petey River.
Hmm.
On each of the three first named, there were to be two towns and one on each of the others. Each man, woman, and child of every family which was settled on these tracts of land was to receive 50 acres, which was to be increased as the necessities of the family might demand. At that time, it was very common for individuals to come into the country in the capacity of servants. These individuals had engaged to labor in the capacity of servants only for a certain number of years. My marker up. The king made provisions for this class of persons. So soon as their term of service expired, they were to receive 50 acres of land, free from all rents, for 2 years. Women as well as men were entitled to this bounty. This was a wise provision. Many persons of good character came, at different times, into the country in the capacity of servants. By the wise provision of the king, these individuals were soon as their term of service expired, enabled to assume with credit to themselves and profit to the country the position of citizens. From this class of persons, some of the most worthy citizens of the state and after years sprang. Whether or not all the towns that Governor Johnson was instructed to lay out were actually located, we are not able to say positively. Perhaps they were not, but one thing is certain, about this time, the population of the state first began to spread over the territory. Perrysburg, on the banks of the Savannah, was settled by a Swiss colony. This town was about 30 miles from the sea and 7 miles above tidewater. This settlement was begun under the auspices of John Peter Perry and James Richards of. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's a type of cheese. That's only. I know that's a type of cheese.
I'm bugging. I'm reading too fast. Neuchâtel. James Richards of Geneva, Abraham Miron, and Henry Raymond, both of Soapy. In order to aid Perry in accomplishing his undertaking, the Assembly granted him $2,000 and sustenance for 300 persons for the period of 1 year. Damn. Provisions was made that the immigrants be Swiss Protestants of good moral character. The country had now been settled 60 years. Still, the people enjoyed the country, and they talking about North Carolina.
Right.
But anyway, the country had now been settled 60 years. Still, the people enjoyed a few of the blessings of civilization. We have already seen that the dwelling houses of the majority of the country people rude in appearance and afforded but little comfort to those inhabiting them. There were even at this early period in the country a few stately mansions, but these were exceptions. A few rich men came to Carolina and from the infancy of the colony lived in English style. What we now call outhouses were of course even more neglected than the dwellings. In 1731, there were few barns in the state. The domestic animals were rarely, even in winter, put in stables. They were turned into pens nearby the dwelling houses, more for the purpose of keeping them tame than with the view of protecting them from the inclemency of the winter. Horses, cows, hogs, and sheep had increased most wonderfully at this time. It was no uncommon thing for a farmer to own several hundred head of cattle. These were no expense. These were no expense whatever, except the time that was spent in watching them and preventing them from going wild. They were fed neither in summer nor winter. Damn. In summer they grew very fat, but in the winter they became extremely poor, and vast numbers of them died. It is said during the winter of 1730-31, not less than 10,000 head of cattle died from hunger and cold. Up to this period, the farmers laid up no food for their domestic animals, and it is said there was not a cow shelter in the country. Very little use was made of the domestic animals by the early settlers. Milk and butter were scarce, notwithstanding the fact that one individual often owned 200 cows with calves. The cows and calves were allowed to run together in the forest, and the owner of this vast herd rarely had either milk or butter on his table. Butter sold often for $1.50 per pound, and sometimes for twice that amount in Charlestown. The first individuals who settled in the state, it would seem from their conduct, extremely ignorant with respect to agriculture, and very little progress was made either in the science or art of agriculture by their descendants for more than half a century. They learned to cultivate maize from the Indians and rice from the Negroes that were brought into the colony from Africa. In 1731, there were very few mechanics in the state. The wages of a good carpenter at that time was about $7.50, and diet per day. Blacksmiths ranked about the same. Such a condition of things did not last long. In a country which afforded freedom to all, such wages would entice the struggling multitude of Europe. The first settlers of the state did not, however, think of settling up the state with the laboring classes of Europe. They looked to Africa for laborers. This, excuse me, I lost my, hold on. Oh my God.
Let me see. Hence, the Negro population increased much more rapidly than the white. When the white population numbered only a little more than 10,000, the Negro population was 40,000. The price of the Negro on an average was about $150. This sum was paid with ox hides and deer skins or with a few barrels of rice or of tar. Such a system was calculated to make the white people lazy. Now, how ridiculous is that?
Oh my God.
So they had...
What part you want?
I just fit right where you left, where it said they looked to Africa for laborers. Why? Because what was the Indians doing? Tearing everything up. They was tearing everything up. So if they were not financially sound, with the, what would they say, 1,500 of them? That rapidly, so now you have the Negro Act at this time of 1740, and they specifically had a whole bunch of Berbers here. So now they did the whole bunch of you don't know who's who, right? So you have Indians that they're calling Negroes, Negroes that are from different islands and not necessarily the ancient Berbers from North Africa. So it's a whole plethora of people that they're talking about, but the records are going to actually say exactly what it is. So and that is just showing that you're going to be able to go back, whether it's with Spain, or if it's with Britain. So you can always check the British archives for documentation that you feel like you may not be seeing here, especially if it was a British colony at the time that you hit your brick wall, especially if it was a French or a Spanish colony at the time, or you see how they talked about that city, that particular town was a Swiss town. Right? Neufchâtel is a type of cheese, by the way. That shows that they're the first inhabitants of that particular town. The team takeover was done by the Swedes. Right? You know, New Jersey was New Sweden. So now you have an idea of what type of, not just that colonization took place, but now you have a timeline as to what colonizers. So generally, if you see that they were fighting for or against a particular faction, if you follow those captains, you follow those generals, you follow those skirmishes and different, the Battle of Bunker Hill, the Battle of this, the Battle of Savannah, those different places, you'll be able to narrow down on some intel that you didn't have. So for the reason why you think you can't find Grandpa, it's because his ass was away at war.
And not only that, you got to see that. Let's look at this timeline right here. They're talking about 1730 and 1731, correct?
Right.
They're saying that they brought their first the Negroes in at that time in 1731.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to Charleston, to this area, right? Charleston is a little bitty area on the coast of North Carolina.
Right.
Look, it's like they call it town, Charlestown, like damn near island or whatever. And then so basically they're saying they haven't even reached into the interior of that state yet, let alone the country. Okay? So also it's saying how do you, if that's 1731, and then we were just reading, and it's all known that the Cherokees and the Trailers stuff is 1830s and they're like into the 1850s.
Right.
Where is this 400 years slavery thing at?
Right. Oh, and how could that be? Because also simultaneously during that time, you had the Irish potato famine where they needed all of the what? The farmers, the ones that did so poorly in where? South Carolina. So they couldn't barely even feed themselves. So that means they couldn't afford the Negroes either. So something happened there.
I'm not even getting to that part yet because now they're talking about they couldn't feed themselves and do nothing. You got 200 cows and you one man by yourself.
Right.
You don't even have butter or milk, they said.
Right.
Now you got 200 cows and no milk or butter.
Right.
I mean, that just makes no damn sense. So you just got shit for no reason. You don't even know why you got it.
Hustle backwards.
And you just getting stuff because you see it.
That's right.
They got it.
Hustle
now
backwards.
You want it. Now you got it. You don't even know what to do with it. So crazy.
It is. It is. And I don't buy that part about the rice either. Now, we had our own specific long grains of rice. What it is they couldn't get our people to stay there in them swamps and that water for too long. We got blisters and we ain't playing that mess. Our people wasn't doing that.
No, it's just we can leave.
That's
leave
right.
when we want to.
That's right. That's right.
They're on the edge. They're on the edge of the country. Where you gonna go?
Right.
They ain't even did their own yard, is what they're saying. You haven't did your own yard. You just let your cows go in the woods.
Right. So now
you go in the woods. They ain't gonna go in the woods. You know
Now,
what I'm saying?
with respect to all of the activity that was going on, and they're going to mention a lot about the Catawba and those other tribes, the Watery, the Congaree, the Waxhaw, the Sugary. They're going to, when we, as we progress in the series, they're going to speak about those towns. And if you think to the propaganda that we've seen with those slave ships, and it tells them to keep them away from Charleston, better believe it, because they would see their Indian people that was there, because everybody was
Right.
able to come and go.
All right, now we read we was reading this about Charleston, and then we was reading about the Kings. We read once again about the King and the Moitoy, right, in this article.
Right.
We read them in the last article. Now, can we punch up what I said earlier about when they went over to England?
Oh yeah. Hold on.
When the children of Moitoy went over to England, because I wanted to we can get to the next point.
Okay. Hold on. In a moment, I'll get that and pull that up. Yeah, so they weren't the sharpest knives in the drawer. You gotta understand, like, you gotta give our grandparents and our folks some credit. Definitely gotta give our folks some credit. They were not this
We did everything.
That's right.
Give grandma her credit. She did everything. Because if grandma is building a house, doing all the farming, making all the food, knowing all the plants, all that type of stuff, you gotta learn everything from her. You gotta be nice. You gotta humble yourself, or you gotta try to go over there and conquer us, and then try to bring her in the house and try to make her your house lady. Yep. So y'all children and everybody can learn from us, and that's what everybody did. Like I said, you can go on. I think it's the history of the American English language, or the history of the English language on YouTube, and they start off in a southern plantation. It's gonna be the big plantation house, and it's gonna be your southern whites versus your northern whites.
That's right.
And the northern whites is gonna have a problem with the southern whites because of the way they talk. And he basically want to tell the guy that basically he talk like he said, what, I talk like a nigga? And then the other guy didn't say nothing.
Right.
And he said, basically, like, go on and say it. He said, go on and say it. He said, look at here. I was raised by my nanny.
That's right.
I sucked on my nanny's breast. My nanny even taught me my first words. So down here, it's something like down here, we know our niggas because we like one with them. So basically, take your funky ass back up there if you don't like what you see down here.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, damn. Well, I was watching, I was like, what the hell? Because the guys from up north at that time, it was like, good night, mate. Talking all that old other British, not that Australian accent, but the British stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They was doing all that type of stuff. But the guys down south, I learned my first words by my nanny. Wow. So that made me think, oh, shit. Do you know that the majority of them people down there, when they talk about, like people don't really get it. Our minds are so on that movie Roots that you're not really getting how close people are.
That's right.
Yeah, somebody can come in there at first, you're gonna be my slave, nigga, and all those war tactics. But after you living with people for so long and you learning their ways and stuff like that, it's like what it is right now in America and all over the world. People act like they hate us, but you want to kick it with us. You want to take our lingo. You want to watch us perform and all that other stuff. And then you start doing the same thing, acting like you're not doing what we was doing. So I'm saying that to say I started to learn about the South more that their psychology is all fucked up.
Right.
If you was breastfed off a black woman, learn from her. She fed you your food and fed you everything. Well, God damn it, she is everything to you. And that's how a lot of them felt back then. Social media not gonna say it like that, but that's how they felt back then about them. And remember, I showed you the one letter of one of my family members of the Little Johns.
Yes.
Of how she was talking about the people that she lived with. She damn near praised them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because she don't know what it's like to live that type of lifestyle. As far as what we was told. But when you go and read certain narratives, certain slaves don't know what the hell you talking about when you talk about all that type of stuff. They go on fishing and reading books and going on trips. They doing all type of shit.
That's right.
They don't know what you talking about.
Think about those narratives when they would always be so upset after post emancipation, when they would say things like, and then slavery was over and they done just turned us loose like cattle. They sounded so sad, like, oh my God, we didn't have nowhere to go. We was out in the woods. We didn't know what the hell to do. We just was like, Master, can we go with y'all? Y'all moving in Cali? Can we go too? Awful. You got to hear the fear and the anxiety. And it wasn't because they were brainwashed, just because where were they going to go? Where were they going to go?
And listen.
And what were they going to do if they didn't have family?
With the white folks.
Right.
The same thing happened with them. They didn't know what the hell to do. And then not only that, the government just hiring niggas everywhere. Oh yeah, we gotta take over the South. Fuck them. Here you go, nigga. You can have all that shit. You know, they like, whoa, whoa, what's going on here?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And then mind you, a guy who always had slaves doing everything, now he gotta cook. Now she gotta cook.
That's right.
That old bitch that's been talking all that shit all this time, now she gotta cook.
Right.
Okay, let's see.
Right.
Everybody, man. Children, man, I'm never coming back here again. Damn it, I told you. I told you already. You never fucking listen.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I've hung out, had best friends, white guys that talk to their parents just like that. That's not a movie. That's not a joke. That shit goes down. You done took your kid at 10 years old all over the world.
Right.
And showed him every damn thing.
Right.
Now he know everything. Just like the little crackhead, the boy that's the latchkey kid left in the house with the crackhead parents. They gotta see every damn thing. It's both of them see everything, but it's too extreme. But one thing they're gonna do if you fuck with them is blame the parents.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Hey, your slide is up.
Much.
Your screen share is up that you wanted.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready. It's up there.
Okay. Let's go back to teaching mode. You got it up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so back to the show. All right, now we were just reading the articles on the lineage of the Cherokee kings, the world knows as Cherokee. Now we're going to see about when they went over there to England, what they said about them. And it's very simple. It's right here. It says 27 June 1730. This is the same year we was just reading about. It says, on Monday last, the Indian king and the prince and 5 of the chiefs of his court, in parentheses, all blacks. Let's read it again. On Monday, 27th June 1730, on Monday last, the Indian king and the prince and 5 of the chiefs of his court, all blacks, were introduced to his majesty at Windsor. The king had a scarlet jacket on, but all the rest were naked, except an apron about their middles, and a horse tail hung down behind. Their faces, shoulders, etc., were painted and spotted with red, blue, and green, etc. They had bows in their hands and painted feathers on their heads. A dinner, a leg of mutton and a shoulder, and a loin of mutton was provided at the mermaid at Windsor for them. The king lies on the table in a blanket, but the prince and the chief of his court lie on the ground. Weekly Journal or the British Gazetteer. Okay, so even went back over in Europe, they had reporters that was reporting everything.
That's right.
So they have like the treaty that they had signed, and under the treaty here they have reports of what was going on while they spent their time there, stuff like that.
Vibes.
So I want this article to show that at this time they were explaining what they looked like, and they said they were all blacks. I ain't saying this. This is what the article says. So once again, the Europeans who came visiting the Eastern Woodland Indians, this is what they wrote, what they saw. So don't throw your arrow at us.
That's
Aim
right.
it the other way.
That's right. Ain't got nothing to do with us. That's right. Don't be mad at grandma. The No Grandma Killer Squad. We ain't trying to hurt nobody. We just want to put this info
Don't
out.
be mad at Cousin Spirit Wolf and Cousin Phoenix.
That's right.
We just cousins.
We just want to make sure y'all don't throw grandma away. So make sure you don't throw grandma away. So I think that was pretty good. We could definitely get some questions in right now. We could definitely do that before we disperse up out of here. But it's so much more. We're gonna run through a lot more of these articles. So much interesting caveats. I mean, we're just gonna run through all the tribes and look at them through antiquity and start bringing up some of these things. And then challenging them. You see what they said about the rice and stuff like that. You gotta understand. You can't tell me there wasn't a slight tinge of propaganda there, specifically in that particular area, knowing that they didn't even have the numbers again. But it also established the fact that the numbers are relatively low. There were no millions. It said 1,500 came into the colony. Right. 1,500.
Right. And okay, there 1,500, a little bit in Charlestown. And then when we was reading the other articles, they was talking about how the Cherokees were basically all over the Carolinas. Basically, they had the Carolinas. But at the same time, they were just mentioning the Walkamaws and everybody else that was over there on the coast. My family that was over on the coast down there.
Right.
But my point is, they were saying that they were all black.
That's right.
If you're going to go get some slaves from somewhere else, Africans or somewhere else, when you already got blacks here, right, you're only going to get them for cultivating purposes and stuff like that. Carpentry and the reasons why they went and got them.
Yeah.
Because the blacks here is booking. We gone.
That's right.
As soon as we get a chance, we out. You already know it.
So, are there any questions before? Got about 10, 15 minutes left. Got a couple of more articles we could go through. Let me see. Damon Taylor, we can't wait to have you over here at No Grandma Killers. That would just be like the ultimate build. And we know you got that South Carolina, that Tidewater, PD, Catawba. We know you got that work. Please come through. Whenever you get an opportunity or the time to
come on through, family.
Absolutely. Damon Taylor got that work. Absolutely. In explicit detail. I would love.
Are you from North Carolina?
Damon, he's from New York, but he's his family, the PD, and they're down in Catawba. He's got roots down south. If you could please come bring that build with the Negro and show these people those pictures of those people. You know what I'm talking about. That was probably one of my favorite builds that you ever did. We were like free of debates for a good. Damon bought the American Indian community a good month free of being trolled by the 750. He bought us a lot of time. We had no headaches for a while based off of this specific post, and he had all of these wonderful pictures to give you the visual of what these laws were saying at the time specifically. And when you tie it into it's definitely not who you think it is. And it was absolutely insane. David, I would love for you to please come through to No Grandma Killers and drop that drop. That would be just like phenomenal. Um, yeah. So there's that. Now, there's so many other things we're going to talk about again. So now we have some different tribes to check into. Y'all know I'm gonna be on that miracle thing, like like white on rice. I'm gonna be all over it. I'm gonna be all over it because that was so interesting. Um, again, and then there's that situation with the whole language being called Marico. So if we can track down where the Marico people were, somewhere down south, right? I'm certain that those are the people that went to go and establish Sierra Leone. So now these also could be people that lost in any of these wars, right? Because if anybody was fighting with Britain, you got your ass kicked, and you best believe that you suffered from booty and spoil because you lost. So whoever loses, the winner takes all. Britain happened to lose. So if you of our tribes happen to be on the same allegiance with the British throne at that time, you picked the losing team, so that you kind of know how that went, right? And then the winners got some spoils, some perks, and things that they're now entitled to. So you know how that went. What were you gonna say, Cuz?
Regardless, they was gonna try to make them. Regardless, they was gonna try to make them make new treaties. Because if you fought with the United States, and say you didn't fight with the British, and you fought with the United States, and then you won with them, they'd be y'all be like, yeah, we cool, and they'd be like, no, nigga, we not cool. You like, what? Well, hold on, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Well, you had that treaty with them, fool. You had that, and you ain't got no treaty with us. You still come back up.
That's right.
So now you don't fight with them. You fight with the British, and then you lose, and then the British go home, and you stuck here. Like, oh, what we gonna do? And then they're like, yeah. So now what's up? Now y'all gotta leave.
Yeah.
Or you gotta, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So make a new treaty.
That's right.
And we'll give you a reservation. Regardless, it was the same thing. We have to make a new treaty.
That's right.
That's what they was gonna try to push. That's what they were gonna try to push, even though their constitution already said that they were supposed to be respecting the ones that they already had at the time of the Constitution. So
that's right. That's right.
What are the ones that they have at the time of the Constitution? They didn't make what ever fight a war. They make treaties right afterwards. No.
That's right.
It was the ones that was already there. Y'all was respecting them.
That is indeed a fact. That is indeed a fact.
So anyway, that's it. Where the questions at? Any questions?
Any questions? I mean, you guys definitely could call up 563-999-3440. No grandma killers. Don't be a grandma killer. We want to start getting these phone lines popping. At least this way, the haters ain't got to talk about I hate Phoenix. They can just call me up and tell me what they need to say. I'm kidding. Definitely. But you know that's well. So we definitely have some more stuff that is going to be super cool. So there's so many different articles, and they have these different perspectives, different things. Oh, a lot of the proclamations. We're going to be going through those military records, how you can find a bit of a description. So even when you see your grandfather listed as free white people or free white on the 1790 or perhaps the 1810 or even up to 1820, because you really don't see a lot of them listed as colored until like 1840, 1850 for the most part. There are some, but there are other free people when you get down to like the 1790 or the 1800, or I think also the 1810. If they do label you free, it's either going to be white or other free. Okay, so sometimes it may be hard to get to. You open up the document. Remember what I said, don't just look at the face card. You want to open up the document, and then you'll have to page over, because the other free people are not on that first form that you generally see, because it's not in a portrait view, it's going to be in a landscape view. Okay, so which is like the elongated way across the screen from left to right. So what you're looking for is actually would be on, you'll have to page over to the right. So if the first document that populates after the face card happens to be the seventh page, in order to see those other free people or the free people of color in that instance, you would have to go over to the following page, right? In order to see those columns. So sometimes you'll have to go and look at the blank form in order to understand what those columns are asking and what they're saying. And sometimes they were handwritten. So, and they had one job, and oftentimes they did not complete that one job, which is where we are today and why we have a problem, with them, with these genocidal, ethnocidal acts that have been committed against us in one way or another. So I said that to say, don't give up on the history. Hopefully, if it's getting boring, everybody's in quarantine now. Hopefully, if it's getting kind of boring, I'm going to take away a little bit of the monotony. And we're going to just keep doing these Stop the Press episodes where we're talking about what was actually going on in the news. How does it affect them then? What has transpired? And then also it gives you a timeline to establish when there was conflict in some of these places. It's giving you longitude and latitude. So there's a certain particular place that we are able to have the bird's eye pin drop on the map on Google Earth right now as to where our ancestors stood, where they stand, what happened at this particular time. So we have a drop on that. We're going to learn some of their travel patterns. Where were they coming from when they came into Charlestown? When they left out of Charlestown, where were they going? Sometimes they would take steamship from Charlestown just to Virginia. They would take a ship from Charlestown to Providence, Rhode Island, right? So there was also some sort of activities, and we know for sure that they were going to London. So we're going to get into the next episode. We're going to talk about a little bit about them going to London. This series, we're going to start with the Cherokee. We started off with them. And then we're going to run through that, and then we'll get to the Seminoles, the Choctaws, and Chickasaws, and whatnot, and how that included the Cherokee everybody always had a problem with the Cherokee. When y'all going to get it together? Why don't y'all just do this? Why don't y'all just do that? They've all had their own opinions, and we're going to have a little bit of understanding of why, this family of Roberts turned into the Roberts sons, because this guy's going to be over here with this crew, and this one over here was politically attached or attracted to this particular position. So you kind of get to see that different laws and stuff like that, of course, that can hurt. Again, I think maybe also at some point we'll go into these slave codes, because you will see, and that goes back to support the statement that Spirit Wolf made regarding how the so-called master, or that white person, would see the woman whose breast he suckled from to survive, right? So, and it may seem like a different type of some sort of strange affinity, but you have to understand, even if you feed a wolf puppy, he's going to have some sort of love for you. You know what I'm saying? He might just eat one arm, but he ain't going to eat both of them. It's not the one that fed him anyway, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. Not just to be so biased, but we have to get these things out historically in order to base the understanding. Not so much on a victimization, but also just to have the absolute, like a better drop on the situation, a different type of bird's eye view, us looking in from a perspective of us being able to insert ourselves into a timeline narrative in American history, right? So now here we're talking about the Cherokees in different places, the 1730s. Now that is a timeline where there are timestamps on your own ancestors that you can attach to these different places at these specific times. So we'll be able to figure out, and a lot of times, hopefully this will start helping people get more familiar with what was going on in their area at the same time, to do the process of elimination, even deduction, being able to deduce if your family is attached to specific people in these areas. How were they affected? If they burnt the whole damn town down, then of course they left Darlington, South Carolina, and they moved up to Santee or up to Manning, right? So you gotta, now you kind of have it. They went to go stay with Grandma Nanny that lived over here in this particular place. right? In Anderson. So, go, we'll get to that. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about before we close out, cousin?
Oh yeah, just another tad bit on what you just said. I mean, sometimes you just gotta imagine. You got some people coming over, and then you befriend them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But and women is not being, they don't know how to survive in this atmosphere. And they come from Europe. You from London, and then you come and move to South Carolina.
Right.
They don't even have weather like that. They have some cold, but it don't get as cold in South Carolina as it gets what they're used to. So a lot of times, especially with the travel and stuff like that, and then back in them type of days, I don't even know how if a lot of them women was able to, like, after they even had children, if they was able to because the life expectancy was really short back then, and if they was able to rear them after they even had them. That's just normally. We ain't even talking about like um after being a prisoner of war or something like that. We're just talking about just generally meeting you. Say that person, they say that woman died, and that man is sitting right there, and his child is sitting right there, and we know these people is new, and this dude's wife just died, and he just sitting here. Like they just we just explain how they was living and what their homes look like, right? So they live in a wood shack. This dude's wife died. He's sitting here with a crying baby. They got powdered milk or something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
what is the other type of milk do you give this child? You gonna go give him some cow milk? What is it that you give him? You gotta find another woman who actually, you know what I'm saying, is rearing a child, and it's like, just bring him here. Leave him over here. What if he died too, or end up dying too, and the child just left here? You just say, oh, fuck them, let the baby die. We don't do that. You grab the kid, you raise them, but somebody got to feed them.
That's right.
So it's all type of instances with when you looking and you going through all of this type of history, the type of there's different scenarios and different cases, just like any type of case. It's not all the same thing, all the same narrative.
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna play some of those slave narratives too. The late beloved Josie Brown. I don't remember who put that out, but Josie Brown will listen to some of them, and you can hear for yourself how they thought. In no way did I take it as, oh, they're so brainwashed they didn't want to leave the plantation. I didn't take it as, I took it for what it was. Like, it's almost like your house burning down now. Where are we gonna go now? Cousin Jackie and them act funny over there out there in Missouri and stuff. And then, there's cousin Pedro there, and he's funny. We don't trust him around the kids. They had different things and different reasons why they moved the way they did. Whether or not we understand them all. Right, go ahead.
And the other thing was, like I was saying, they up in the house. You've been master so long, you ain't really know how to do nothing.
That's right.
You've been paying people all your life. You know what I'm saying? Just like these rich kids, a lot of rich kids don't know how to do nothing for themselves. You lose all that money, now what, fool? You know what I'm saying? You don't know how to survive in the trenches. And so that's what happens. So that when they don't know how to survive in the trenches, man, they gonna beg that nigga whatever. Like when Paul, God, I swear to God, I hope I'm gonna give him whatever he asks.
That's right. That's right.
I don't care.
That's right.
Wait a minute. Hey, Billy Bob.
That's right.
Andy Lee, hold on for a second. Wait. Hey, wait. I've been good to you, ain't I? That whole little spiel coming out. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Let's say we gotta no. You can't leave. We gotta cut a deal. I don't care. Just go. How much land you want? Whatever. Let's do it.
Yep.
I've been knowing you, fam. My kids know yours. My kids know mine. I don't want no. This is way too much for me. I'm too old for this. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's how niggas name left in the wheels, all that old type of stuff. That's how you be having these black people come out smiling, come out, what's wrong with you? Why she think she's so happy? You know what I'm saying? Because some people got their get back a certain way, And not only that, it wasn't even a give back. It was just the way the times were, and then they still got their respect afterwards. So it's just like it ain't what people think all the time.
That's right. That's right.
90 seconds.
That's right. That's right. Well, we are gonna wrap this up.
That, hold on. After that, with the reconstruction, that's when people start getting big headed. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's all.
That's right.
That's all. People start getting big headed, and then you start having the media, and somebody with some social media start putting out their little cartoons, and then the other guys start putting out his little movie. You know what I'm saying? What was that movie they watched in the White House? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
60 seconds.
Now that they start tricking people to want to be industrious through hating somebody else, which is false. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's not cool. You know what I'm saying? When we were supposed to be building together and doing things, or they go get their union and we go get our union or whatever, and then everybody just have respect. No, what they wanted to do, because they were insecure, right? Is start trying to bag on somebody and try to make the other person, you know what I'm saying, and start degrading somebody else like they wasn't nothing. I mean, damn, they just already came out of a situation. But because you didn't know what they knew and they were moving faster than you and just like sweeping over the South as far as government politics and all of that, it built up a big hate. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, let's slow this down.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Anyway,
I get it. Well,
so it did happen. It did happen after a while.
That's dead. Well, this was a great bill, cuz. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for coming through. Definitely appreciate it. Everybody out there in Indian country, we happy y'all came through and sat. We gonna keep bringing the urban Indian country news. This is Stop the Press, season 1, episode 1, Spirit Wolf in Phoenix. So if you haven't already, subscribe to No Grandma Killers. Definitely want to do that. Take that number down. That's going to be the permanent number to get in touch with us. We'll be running this concurrently. Once we get our engineer coach back, I think it was sure to run a lot smoother than it probably did today. I don't think we did too bad, though, considering it's been a long time. But back in the original element, Blog Talk Radio is really dope, totally up our alley. And we can do this at the same time, and we get to do the screen share. So we're going to run through some of these things. And we're gonna get this intelligence up, and we're not gonna sidetrack. Don't give up on Grandma and Grandpa, because they show enough and give up on you. And you know this is Operation Cornbread. You got Spirit Wolf and Phoenix Moon signing out. Shout out to Tasha 11 as a. I heard that. I just crack up. So the beloved cousin Tasha She. And Coach Kukut, thank y'all so much. We out. Peace a lot,